Now in its 9th year, this is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network. Talk like you've never heard it before.
Yes, live from Harlem in New York, it's the Ramble. With me, I'm Alex Bennett, and we go to midnight tonight. Well, as you may remember, last week we were talking with Chuck Farnham, which our time was like 3 minutes ago.
And right, it seemed like a long time.
Chuck Farnham, if you don't know who he was, when I was in San Francisco doing my San Francisco program, which I think was the most popular program I ever did in my career, I suddenly had this guy come into my life, who was selling human bone jewelry. And one thing led to another, and after a while, you became a regular on the show, going out on the street, doing stunts and things like that. But before I go any further, there's one other thing we did that I remember, okay, and I'm sure you remember. We started a website.
Yeah, we did.
And it was, I'd have to say, one of the first websites.
Certainly was right up there at the beginning.
And you will attest to something which I've been claiming for years. I invented the podcast. Because I remember when I was out of work, I used to do a show from my house and put it up on my website, and people could go there, and we had a thing called Auto Alex that you could download. It was a program.
Right.
And then you put that on your computer, and every day it would go to see if I had a new episode, and then it would download it to your computer. Do you remember that?
Yep. I was on those things.
Yeah. Was that not the first podcast? Can you think of anything like that before it?
No.
Okay, so I'm right. You will testify if I have to go to court.
I will testify
that I invented the podcast.
You invented the podcast.
Because what Apple came up with years later, where you go to Apple and it will automatically download the latest of something to you, started with us.
We did a lot of weird stuff.
Well, we didn't do it with the website we came up with was the Surfing Monkey.
Right.
Yeah.
After a ceramic monkey I found in Mexico.
What it was, there were these. They weren't ceramic. They were almost plaster of Paris.
Yeah, weird. They're right next to if you're going to Mexico, and I wouldn't recommend that. You know the little old ladies that breastfeed the babies right next to the border.
No,
they're right next to them. If you're looking to buy one.
But anyway, it says it's this little statue you can buy down in Tijuana or whatever,
right?
Of a monkey on a surfboard.
Yeah.
And I figured, who came up with that? What could you, and so we're sitting around my apartment trying to figure out what we're going to call the website. And I had one of these things. Either you got it for me, or
I gave it to you. Yeah.
You gave it to me, and I'm looking over there. And I said, "Hey, how about that? The Surfing Monkey." And I think Biedny, who was the other guy involved with it, Dave Biedny, said, "What do you mean Surfing Monkey?" And I said, "Look, Surfing Monkey."
Yeah,
and we
right
figured,
there.
Well, you surf the web.
Yeah.
And it's a monkey. Monkeys are always the Surfing Monkey was our website, and I think maybe there were 1,000 other websites in the world.
If there was, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
There were not many places to go.
I will not lay claim to the first website, but I will lay claim to creating the podcast.
Yeah.
Gee, now I can sue everybody that does a podcast now, because I've got you to back me up on this one.
Exactly. I'll show up in court for you.
Yeah. So anyway,
you remember one of the weird things that was on that thing that everybody told me not to do?
What?
I created a thing called Stoolie, where every day, if you did your daily, poop, you could take a photo of it, or you could write it and tell us about it. And everybody thought, nobody This is not happening.
I don't remember. I don't remember that, but
no, we were getting thousands of people a day.
See, I need people like Chuck to be my memory. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we had thousands of people a day from all over the world looking for, the internet, things to do, and telling us how they pooped. It was, and I still have that.
Well, I don't remember that, but I do remember the thing that got me in trouble was I had this guy who used to call me at the station who was in San Quentin. But he wasn't just in San Quentin.
He was a special part.
He was the special part. He was on death row. All right?
I think he still is, Alex.
I know he still is.
I don't think he got out.
Yeah. I lost track of him years ago, but I'm sure if I wrote him, he would write me back because he's got nowhere to go.
Right. Well, he's not allowed to go anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, he got the death penalty for, I'll tell you the story here.
Wearing a woman's sweater.
No, here's what the problem was. Here's what the problem was. I put this guy on our website writing a column of what it's like to be on death row. And I thought that was a terrific thing.
Very altruistic, I thought.
Not altruistic so much as it was an education for people. Here's what it's like to live day to day with a sword of Damocles at your throat, all right, ready to chop it off, ready to execute you, and living that day to day. And he wrote some fascinating stuff. I mean, you remember it. It was just great stuff. And it was called Dead Man Talking.
I went up and visited him many times.
Well, I went once with Lori Thompson, who was our newswoman, and she showed up wearing a sausage casing dress.
Nice.
And as she's walking into the prison, everybody's staring at her. And I'm going, why are you doing this? These guys are in here forever, right?
Right.
They can't afford to have a boner, it's just not a good idea. And we went to see Dean. That was his name.
Right.
And he, very nice to us, but they had him all chained up, at the waist or whatever. And because obviously we don't want to get killed.
Oh, so you went on a media visit to
and then they put us in a cell with him.
Yeah. Oh,
okay.
yeah. No.
But they've got him all chained up and everything, like he's going to escape. Maybe he'd try to kill us, but then I'd get publicity. Anyway, so we go there, and I'm wearing like a pair of jeans, and they said, "Oh, you can't wear a pair of jeans." I said, "Why?" And they said, "Because if somebody wants to escape, they're probably going to be wearing jeans. So here you got to wear these special pants we have that you can put over your pants, and it's a pair of white pants." Okay.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, Lori mentions, "Have you looked at the crotch?" And I said, "No. There was a lipstick mark on the crotch, like lips."
Of course.
Right? Anyway.
Yeah, I could believe it.
That's how we met Dean. And we got a lot of trouble for running that column,
Yeah, they don't like you to talk about...
They don't like you to humanize a guy on death row. And I found him fascinating. I would talk to him on the phone and have endless conversations about a number of things,
Yeah.
He was not a stupid man. He had lived in Alaska, worked as a cameraman for CNN.
Yeah.
And I found him ultimately fascinating, but eventually he went and did the column for somebody else because he was offered some money for it.
Nice.
But we got a lot of heat on that deal. And
he was an interesting guy.
Finally one day, my girlfriend at the time said to me, "Hey, what have you ever tried to find out what he did?" And I said, "I don't want to know." My relationship to him is not as a cold-blooded murderer. My relationship to him is, I said to him, "I'm not going to ask you what you're in there for." He says, "Well, I'm not in here for traffic tickets." That's what he said. You know.
And it wasn't a single event either.
Yeah, well, he said my girlfriend said, "Let's go. There's a library over there. Why don't we go over and see if we can find it in the magazine section?" So we look up the name and his name, and it, sure enough, points us to an article in Red Book magazine called "A Kiss," and the article was called "A Kiss from My Killer," and it was about this guy Dean, who it turns out was accused of killing 5 women with his bare hands. Now that's craft. That's craft.
And then Dean's, he did have big hands.
Yeah, and he was found guilty of 4, and they kept the other one at bay just in case he got out of the other 4. Okay.
And you know how they caught him? He was wearing one of them sweater driving her car.
I did not remember, but I'm sure. But anyway, he and I never asked him whether he was guilty or not, or ever to explain it. And I told him, don't ever do it in the column. You can say in the first column something like, "I'll just tell you that I believe that I'm innocent," and then go on with it.
Right.
In other words, we don't want these articles to be about you making a case for yourself. We want them to be about what it's like to live in San Quentin.
Because there really was no case to be made.
There was no case to be made. Yeah. So, but anyway, here's what happens. Here's what a terrible person I am. So the next time after I go to this library and read this stuff, I get a call, and it's a call from Dean blah 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 at San Quentin. Yeah. Will you accept the charges? Right. And I'm thinking to myself, and I go, no, and I hang up because I am so frightened by what. The next time he calls, I take the call, and I said, I have to admit something to you. I was here the last time you called. I said, but I had read an article about you, and I kind of didn't know what to do. And he said, that's not uncommon. I'm used to it. And I said, and we got on with our relationship. He would call me every Saturday, and we'd talk for a couple hours.
Yeah, that was about $1 billion, wasn't it? Those calls, when you call, people call you from prison. Yeah. It's not a free call.
No, it's not.
You're paying like $4 a minute to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And what kind of deal is that? Yeah. I never understood that either. It's like, why are we paying to talk to these people? Yeah. They don't have to pay for the call.
Yeah, exactly. So, that we had a lot of fun. Yeah.
It was nuts. And you moved from, you got to see him inside like a cell. They used to have this big guest room there. Yeah. And you go out there and you could be with.
Yeah, I forgot this about you. You were making it a hobby to get to know serial killers.
All of them.
Tell them who you knew, who you went to San Quentin to visit all the time. Listen to this, folks. You're not going to believe this.
It was really weird. I went to see Dean one time, and Dean had to go to the bathroom, which you're in a little, like, it looks like any doctor's office. I mean, with really heavy windows. Dean has to go to the bathroom, which means it's going to be a long time before he comes back because there's all kinds of searching that has to go on because he left my presence and came back. So Dean goes, well, why don't you talk to your buddy? And I go, who's my buddy, Dean? I came to see you. And he goes, don't you know him? And he points to Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker.
The Night Stalker.
And I go, well, we have corresponded.
One of the most notorious killers in the history of California.
Exactly. And I go, I don't really know him. We only correspond. I've never met him. And he goes, well, it's going to take a while. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to do this. Mm-hmm. So I go over and I go to walk behind him. And I notice his wife, who is there visiting every day, is talking to another inmate. So I go to walk up behind Richard Ramirez. And he turns around, and as I open my mouth, he goes, Chuck, is that you? And at that moment, I knew I was in trouble. It just didn't make sense. And it was Ramirez. It was Son of Sam. It was Richard Allen Davis. I testified at Charles Ng's trial.
Oh, wait a minute. You number one, well, of course, the New York situation.
Right.
You never met him. Yeah.
No, but he used to write and call all the time.
Who?
Son of Sam.
Son of Sam? You corresponded with Son of Sam.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to expand my, letter writing capabilities.
Yeah, is he still? He's dead, isn't he?
No, he's still around.
alive?
Richard's gone.
Richard Ramirez. He got killed in prison, didn't he?
No, he died according to the police, he died of natural causes. I don't believe that for a second, because one time I went to visit, and I came in to give my thing, and I'm sitting there, and the cop is looking at me. He's looking at my ID, and he's staring at me, and he goes, "Somebody wants to see you." And I go, "Yeah, I'm here to see Dean Carter." He goes, No. The cops really don't like people visiting. It's just too much trouble for them. So he goes, No. And I go, "No, I'm here to see Carter." And he goes, "Turn around, Mr. Farnham." And I turn around, and in protective custody is Ramirez, and he's standing on a chair, and he's banging on this window, into the visiting area. And he goes, "You're here to see Mr. Ramirez?" And I went, No. He goes, "Do you know Mr. Ramirez?" And I go, "Well, we've met a couple of times. Does that count as knowing somebody?" And the guy just shakes his head and goes, "Go over there to the window and say hi and get him to shut up." And I went over there, and Ramirez's wife would be muling drugs in. Or somebody would mule drugs in, because Richard was always in the visiting room.
Well, he also had a lot of girlfriends, didn't he? I mean, women were hot.
Yeah, the white
there's this whole subset of human being that are women who are hot for guys on death row.
Oh, massive. The parking lot is full of people.
And what did you, Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, I mean, did you have a nickname for him, like Stalky or something like that?
It's like, "Oh, hi, Richard, how are you?"
Yeah.
And he, occasionally he'd have teeth busted out. And I go, "Why? Where are your teeth, Richard?" And he goes, "Well, they beat me up because I said I'm not going to mule drugs in for them anymore." And I said, "You're doing the right thing, Richard."
Yeah.
Here I am telling the Night Stalker he's doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And he used to send, I got all kinds of artwork. He used to send, pictures of himself.
You ought to write. You ought to put a book together about this.
I keep hearing that.
There was a book. There was a book you and I almost had published.
Yeah.
Of death notices.
Right.
Which was, I think, still a great idea for a book, because when you look at these are the death certificates of famous people. They're fascinating to read. And we had like Kurt Cobain's death certificate.
Death certificates for everybody, I think.
For everybody. And I went to somebody, we put a whole bunch of them together. I went to somebody in New York at St. Martin's Press. And they looked at it and they said, I was in Europe at the time. They said, "We want it." Yeah. By the time I got back, they didn't want it anymore.
Of course.
But, I mean, what a terrific, what a terrific
book.
I've
got stacks of that stuff here. I could never throw anything away.
Yeah.
So it's all here.
Yeah. Well, maybe we should try and get it going again, because
work something together.
What was the title we had for it? Last something.
Last Man Standing?
No, last Word or something. I can't remember the name of it now. But
Final Notice. Mm-hmm. Final Notice would be
Final Notice. That was it. Final Notice. Yeah. So I mean, that's really, that's pretty terrific stuff.
Yeah, we had a great time. I don't think you could do it again today like we were.
Oh, we couldn't do what we were doing. I couldn't do that show in the way that I did that show. It's not like there was anything that was terrible, but today, everybody's so sensitive about everything that we would have had a real problem, with some of the stuff we did.
Well, because we didn't think about it. We just went, "Hey, this sounds funny to us. Let's go do it."
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't all home runs, but there were a lot of them.
Yeah.
you know.
But I remember one of my little stunts was I had a girl write me who said who was a fan of the show. We had met her. She'd dropped by with her mother or something. She said, "I was going to go to my senior prom and now I can't because my boyfriend left town. They moved somewhere else." And I went, "Oh, well, I know what I'll do. This is great for publicity. I'll take you to your senior prom."
Oh, jeez.
And I took her to her senior prom. And that
Nice.
relationship lasted 12 years.
Wow.
Yeah. You remember her. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. She was 18 by the time we, started dating. But
That's good. That's good.
But I
for
took
you.
her out on her senior prom, and I do remember the one moment that I had her out at the senior prom, and there were some kids there. I went to the bathroom, some kids there, and they went, "Gee, he doesn't look like he goes to school with us."
Yeah.
And I
well,
looked
you-
over
you
at him and I
like
said,
the
"No,
monitor.
no shit, Sherlock."
It's like, what were you, the hall monitor?
Yeah, something like that. But no, it was her date for the night. We took her out to a nice dinner, and we had a limousine, and we took her to the prom, and it was a beautiful night for her. So I
Nice.
always used to be able to tell people, my girlfriend, the first time I met her, I went out to her senior prom.
Yeah, that's good. That's,
That's how far I'll go to get laid.
No, and I don't know if you want to tell the story, but that couple that came over to your house one time,
What's this?
you remember that? I don't know how you ended up meeting them, but they came back to your house, and the whole thing was they just wanted you to watch them.
No, they wanted to watch.
Or they wanted you to be part of that?
watch. He wanted to watch. He and his wife have. No, he wanted to watch his wife have sex with me.
Nice. I love that one. That was just like,
And it was great sex too. And he just sat by the side of the bed. It was a cuckold situation,
right.
Yeah. And
yeah.
I invented the cuckold, folks.
Yeah.
No, but it's a long story, and I don't want to get into it here.
No, but I think of that one every once in a while. You want to have a good.
We
chuckle
did it
out
a
of
couple of times.
Yeah. We had some weird ones down in Vegas too that were just similar yet weird. That's the sad part of getting the two of us together.
Yeah. You're frozen all of a sudden. No, there you go.
To get us both in trouble,
Yeah.
Given the amount of time we can, we had amazing times.
Well, it was fun times. It was weird times.
Yeah, it was.
I
all
mean,
good.
we were very privileged because I had a very successful show.
Right.
And that the success of that show afforded us certain opportunities
Right.
that you wouldn't normally be afforded, which if I took advantage of them today, some nutcase along the way would have said, "Oh, he raped me," or something like that. And then all of a sudden I'm not working anymore. And it's all because somebody accused
you're
me.
Like, what do you mean? Oh, no, you got naked on the street. That's indecent exposure. Now you're convicted and for 25 years.
You're going to love this one. I had somebody come to me, a man, adult male, and he comes to me and he said, "I got to talk to you." I said, "Why?" He said, "My daughter's pregnant. She says it's you."
Okay.
And I said, "What's her name?" And he told me her name. I said, "I never met anybody that name." It turned out she was completely lying.
Right.
When her father said, "Who got you pregnant?" the first thing she could think of is the morning guy she listens to on the radio.
Would you see a bus come by about that time ago?
And I had
Hey, it's that guy.
I had to convince this guy that it wasn't me, and finally she admitted it wasn't me. But if that happened today, can you imagine the trouble I'd be in? Just that lie, just a lie.
Thousands of dollars in legal fees and
Mr.
tests.
Reamer would have been able to handle it, I'm sure.
Fred, yeah. God bless Fred.
Yeah. So what are you doing for the rest of the day? In where is it?
In Lovely, Alabama. It's Good Friday, so.
Well, when we're recording this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it is good. It's Good Friday today, maybe.
We probably would have dressed you up as a giant bunny and put you on a cross or something.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll probably put those photos up because I have those pictures as well.
Yeah.
From the time we
Yeah.
had me with the cross. So,
You
yeah, that's
know,
it. How about you?
talking to you now after all this time, I'm sorry I haven't talked to you, but now we've got endless amounts of things to talk about.
Exactly.
And we probably should do another one of these because
Yeah.
we still got much more stuff to cover. And I think we will. But right now, we got to call it a close. Ladies and gentlemen, Chuck Farnham. Thank you, Chuck.
Bye.
Now in its 9th year, this is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network. Talk like you've never heard it before.
Yes, after all these years, getting back together with Chuck Farnham has kind of been a pleasure. And he will be here again next week. Let me just get my... I every now and then, Wednesdays, I always have to, like, reset everything. Okay? There we go. There we go. Okay. How's that? Is that nice? Okay, that's good. Anyway, it's kind of nice to talk to him, and it brings back a lot of memories. And he also backs up my theory that I created the podcast because he was there when I did it. He was part of it. So anyway, but nobody will ever give me credit for that. They're never going to hold. You know, once I did mention that to online, to a website that was talking about how, I don't know, somebody was the first podcaster. And I said, no, I was the first podcaster. And I told them when and how. And they said, no, you couldn't be. He was the first podcaster. I went, okay, if you don't want the truth here, you know, but it was what I was doing back then. Screw you, you know. Anyway, I'll never get credit for that. You watch. And it's not like I'm expecting any money out of it, okay? Although all those people who are doing podcasts should have to pay me a royalty, but they're not going to. So, what the hell? Let's start bringing in some of these people to the podcast. Bring them in on the Zoom podcast. This isn't a podcast. I don't know what this is. I have no idea. Anyway, hello, Charlie. How are you, Charlie?
I'm doing great.
There he is, ladies and gentlemen. What does it say today on your T-shirt? Science.
Oh. The good thing about science is that it's true, whether you believe it or not, or whether or not you believe it.
Yeah. Science is true. That's right. Not every bit is exactly correct because somebody has to interpret it and figure it out and so on and so forth. There used to be a saying that came from The Old Man and the Mountain, I think was the book, and it was, nothing is true, all is forgiven. Okay? And I thought about that for a while, and I went, well, that's not true because how can all be forgiven? I don't know. I came up with a reason why that wasn't true. But anyway. Hello, Jeff. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
And hello to Brian.
How are you?
I am fine. How be you?
What's going on in your life? Tell me something exciting that's happening in your life.
Well, something very exciting has happened in my life, but I can't talk about it. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I can't talk about it. One day I will.
Ever? Oh, okay.
Oh no. Eventually I will.
Good.
But I really, it's something. It's not that I mind talking about it, but Marjorie says don't talk about it yet.
Uh-oh.
You know. So when it comes to pass, I will.
Get a boner?
Huh? Yeah, I think that was it. I got a boner.
Don't talk about it.
Don't talk about it. I don't want to.
Hey, what about Lori Thompson? I know you were trying to get a hold of her or something, and have you guys communicated back and forth?
Yeah, we have, but she keeps saying to me, well, she said, I'm going to, I don't know, South America. Okay. I'll let you know when I get back. So I about the time she was getting back, I wrote her a text and said, well, now that you're back, you want to do one with me? And she says, well, I would, but I've got, get a hold of me next week. So then I got a hold of her the next week, and she says, well, I've come down with something or another. I can't remember what, and I can't do it right now because I'm not well. So I said, okay, well, I'll get back to you. I just gave up, you know, I mean, I'd like to do her. Of course, I'd love to have her on here.
Yeah, that's tough. I've had some friends like that too. Same thing. You try a few times, and then after that, it's like, I want to talk to you. I want to hang out. If you want to hang out, you call me. So
yeah, after a while, you give up. Yeah.
It'll happen.
Well, the sad part about it is, I mean, the situation with Chuck, which was kind of made it all interesting, was that we didn't talk to each other for almost 25 years because of a falling out we had. And it's just nice that we are talking again. It's nice after all this time, because whatever I enjoyed about Chuck, I still enjoy. So that's good. And you get to enjoy him as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it brings back some memories when you guys are talking about some things. I sort of remember some of those crazy things.
Yeah.
Your times in jail, stuff like that.
Who's in jail?
No, you don't say stuff like that. Because then some people are going to go, Alex was in jail? And
Not
all,
Alex, Brian. Brian said it brings back memories. I said, your time in jail?
It was prison. Prison, by the way, not jail. Okay.
Prison. I stand corrected.
Yeah.
What time did the show start? Did I miss a lot of it?
Yeah, we talked about you the entire time.
Yeah, we're about ready to sign off now. You're calling too
Hey,
late.
everybody, wait, goodbye.
Yeah, we'll let you sign off before the rest of us. Goodbye.
Okay.
We'll see you later. What time does the show start? Don't you know what time the show starts? What?
Right now, a few minutes ago.
I stopped taking the heavier version of my pill now, and my eyesight's getting better.
Really?
Yeah, it's like blurry a lot, but it came back. So let me just see here. I just want to do something here just so I can make sure this is okay. All right, there we go. But anyway, so my eyesight is better, and I'm not as loopy. I'm still a little tired and everything, but it's I may try and stop that drug altogether if I can, because what good is it doing me? I bump into walls. Hello, Kevin. How are you?
All right, how you doing, Alex?
Yeah, how you doing?
Yeah.
I'm laughing because Albert, when he was on the Monday show, I was listening to you guys when I was driving home from Lodi, but he made you ask everybody how they were doing.
Yeah.
Actually, that was the whole hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
funny.
Albert said, "Gee, how's everybody doing?" I said, "Well, let me ask them one by one."
One by one.
and then they would say something, and then I would talk with them for a while about it, and then I get to the next person and elaborate. By the time I was finished, the hour was up.
Yeah.
And we found out actually how everybody was.
Yeah, we found out some interesting things about people too.
Yeah.
I forget what they are now, but they were interesting at the time.
Well, mainly because you're like me, you really don't care about what other people do.
Yeah. Oh yeah, what are you doing?
Huh?
Huh? Exactly.
Right. You didn't hear what I said, right?
What's his name was? Yeah, I don't know. And then, oh man, that one guy. Oh man.
What?
Okay, I'm drawing a blank. Michael Sheen. Charlie Sheen. Charlie Sheen. He was talking to somebody. He was being interviewed by somebody, and he would listen, like intently listen to them while they were talking, and to the point where then there's like this silence in between because people weren't like not interrupting, but how you sort of continue the conversation really very tight, right?
Right.
And he has this thing about listening, but the listening, how he listens, like so uncomfortable because he just listens to every single word coming out, and then when you stop, he's still waiting to make sure you're done.
Well, actually, my technique in interviewing people was I stared at them throughout the entire interview, looked at them directly, and the reason for that is that I felt I could orchestrate them with my eyes. In other words, let's say they said something, too many interviewers would then jump in with something they wanted to ask next or something like that. But if they had just paused for like a couple of seconds, the person would have elaborated on what they were saying. Yes. So what I would do is I would look at somebody intently while I was interviewing them, and then if they paused, I would just kind of go, and then they feel compelled. They feel compelled to keep talking.
Yeah, they keep going.
And that's how that was my secret of interviewing.
You know who does that? Who bugs me the most is Bill Maher. Bill Maher asks a question, and then when their first statement of that answer is done, he's looking at his cards already for the next question. And I'm like, well, shut up. Let him elaborate on what he was just talking about, because now you're not just getting the answer, but you're hearing the story behind the answer. You know.
Well, I had a woman who I worked with at Sirius who gave me a bad time because she says, "You never prep." And I go, "Why should I prep? I'm curious." You know, I never prepped for interviews. A few times I missed things because I didn't, but that was rare. You know, I mean, I remember I was interviewing Robert Wise, the director, and he had just finished doing what Star Trek the movie or the motion picture. And so I was asking him all about that. And when he left, an hour later, I went, son of a bitch, I forgot to ask him. He edited Citizen Kane. You know, so occasionally without having preparation, I have missed out on some stuff, but very rarely. Because what I do is I go into interview curious, okay? And that's all you have to have is curiosity to do a good interview, right? Oh, good, I'm glad it's Tony. I never thought I would say that, but I'm glad it's Tony.
Oh my God. Hi, neighbor.
Because no other Tonys can now call. Okay, so anyway.
Oh.
So, but that was my technique of interviewing. But what was I going to say? There was something I was going for there, and then I forgot what it was. So.
Oh, but the editing of but talking to people about certain things.
Oh yeah, that I would stare at them and so on. Well, now the opposite is true of Marjorie. She hates me because she says to me, "You never look at me when I'm talking." And the reason I don't, and I tried to explain it to her, is when I am doing phone calls on a show, okay, I'm listening to the phone calls, but I'm looking everywhere in the room. Doesn't matter where I look. So when she'd say something to me, she was like a phone call to me. And so I wouldn't stare at her while she was talking. And I really should. I mean, it would be nice if that's what she wants. It's a pretty ugly sight, but I'll do it.
Just tell her you don't want her to elaborate.
Huh? I don't want her to elaborate, exactly. But, you know, so, I mean, it was kind of the opposite with Marjorie. She always complained that I never looked at her when she was talking. And part of that was that when I was talking with people on the phone, which was a large part of my show, I was always looking somewhere else, except if I had an interview in the room and then I was looking at them. Anyway, enough about me. But, yeah, life is...
How are you, Alex?
Huh?
How are you?
Yeah, how you feeling? I heard the Monday show, yeah.
I'm fine. I'm fine.
The Monday show.
Yeah.
Actually, quite fine, to tell you the truth. One of these days you'll find out what I'm referring to. Yes, Alan.
Over the weekend, I was watching some videos of you. You were doing an interview in the San Francisco Marriott I think in the 90s, and
With Larry King.
Larry King, absolutely. And you were just talking about what you were talking about, that you don't write things down, and he doesn't do that either, didn't do that.
Well, we compared notes on that, and I remember after that interview we had lunch. And we had a lot of things in common about the way in which we dealt with people and interviewed them.
But you were friends already before that, right?
No, we weren't
Oh,
friends.
really?
No,
Oh.
we didn't know each other. We knew of each other. Well, actually...
Oh, well, I mean, when you were interviewing everybody in the Marriott there, he came in and talked like you were friends.
Yeah, well, I did work with him at one point. I worked with him at WMCA here in New
That's
York.
right. You said everybody was going to get fired 2 months later. Everybody in this one picture was fired.
No. It was a picture they took. They said, okay, we're going to take a group photo of all the WMCA talk hosts, right? And I went, okay, fine. And we're all standing there. And they said, well, you sit here, and hi, Steve, how are you? Steve Fox, ladies and gentlemen, the new voice of GabNet. Hi, Steve.
This is Gabnet. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Anyway, where was I? I was talking about the
Oh, Larry King.
Larry King.
Oh, Larry King. That I they were taking a picture of the group of us, and so they say, well, you stand here, and you stand here, and you stand here, and then in the picture, it's a great picture. I mean, it was Larry King and Sally Jesse Raphael and a couple other people I can't remember right now, and it was I and somebody else, and we were on the edges of the group. That's where they placed us. And I said to him afterwards, I said, you know why we're on the edge? And he said, no. And I said, because we're going to be gone within 2 weeks and they can crop the picture without us in it. And sure enough, 2 weeks later, we were both fired.
Really?
Yeah. So, yeah. I still have that picture somewhere. I don't know where, but, But Larry King was in there.
I remember that.
Hmm?
I remember that.
Do you remember it?
You both got fired within very close time period.
But this was in New York.
Maybe I don't remember that.
This was in New York. This was in New York.
I thought I heard you talk about it. That's probably what it was.
So I mean,
there was wasn't there a video with you and Larry King in San Francisco?
Well, that's what
I just brought
before
up.
You
sorry. I just dropped in.
Yeah, well, and actually we ran it on this show. I've run it on this show before. Maybe I'll run it again. It's like 45 minutes. Good interview.
It is.
And considering he's dead, he won't want any residuals. So, but...
you just go lay it on his grave. Give him a couple bucks.
Yeah. But no, I remember that discussion I had with him after the show. We went and just had a bite to eat, and we were talking about just interview technique, and he and I had the same theory about it. You don't prepare for an interview, because if you should know who the person is. You should have a basic thumbnail of who the person is. But if you don't, and then I said, I hold a conversation. He said, that's exactly what I do. And I said, in that conversation, out of pure curiosity, you're going to ask a lot of different questions because you're curious. And I said, and the main reason I don't want to know ahead of time about what this guy's going to talk about or whatever is I want to, enjoy it with the audience. I want to discover it with the audience. And he said, yeah, that's the same thing with me. Then we both agreed we were just lazy, but that was it.
Hey, Steve, it's been a long time since I talked to you.
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, what, about 2 hours now?
Yeah.
Oh, where'd you talk to him?
On the phone.
Well, on the phone. Yeah. Oh, okay. Good. See, I know what you guys do, all you guys in California. You talk behind my back. Okay? So
I don't know that what we were talking about you would have been too interested in. Are you into rare and fine wines?
Not really.
Okay. There you go. That was 90% of our conversation.
Only if that wine is coming from a woman I'm with. See, it's just a joke. It's a sexual bon mot that I just gave out with. Anyway, listen. I want to ask you. Speaking of Steve Fox, okay. Speaking of Steve Fox, what did you think about the Fox decision?
The Fox decision.
The thing
Fox
with the
News.
Dominion Fox suit. Do you think
that
that?
is...
Huh?
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, do you think they should have settled like they did?
Boy. Well, what else could they do?
Well, I mean, no, they could have gone through the whole trial.
Yeah, but would they want to?
Well, I mean, I know from experience that what you'd like to do is not go to court. You'd like to settle out of court. But
Right.
apparently the settlement wasn't enough. How'd you feel about it, Charlie? I mean, I'm not that happy with it only because there wasn't a provision for an apology to be
Right.
made publicly by each of the hosts and by Fox to what they had done to Dominion, which was not right. It was wrong.
I wanted to see Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson on the witness stand admitting that they lied.
Well, that we
wanna
would like to
see
see
that.
too. But now you're the lawyer for these guys. You're the
Yeah.
lawyer for Dominion, and you go, look, we know we're never going to get the 1.6 billion.
I
That
got
they,
about half of it.
well,
Yeah, they got half of it.
if we get half of it, we'll be lucky, and won't cost us any more money to get it. And then if we went on with the case, and let's say we won, and let's say we even won the 1.6 billion, how much longer would this case be in court as they appeal it, and they go to the Supreme Court, and they do this and that and the other thing? So settling is a positive thing, but I think they should have settled with an apology.
Yeah.
Me too.
I'll agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The CEO of the voting machine thing had some pretty negative stuff after the settlement to say about Fox News. Fox News had no comment.
Well, the Fox News said that, this is us saying that we're just trying to be the best journalists we can. What? How did they determine that that was the way this thing came? Yeah, exactly. I think this is what you were trying to do, right?
Yeah.
Which is sign language for bring me the check. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I didn't want to say anything. You'll get demonetized.
yeah, forget it. You know, you ready for, they demonetized my Monday show again.
Why?
Well, you just talked about Fox. You'll probably get demonetized again.
Yeah, but I want to know. I want to know from these people at YouTube. Why did I get demonetized for the Monday show, where there's no four-letter words? We don't talk about politics. What did I do wrong?
It's the Alex Bennett algorithm.
Oh, I see. It's
Yeah.
Heard the name Alex Bennett, and
no. I mean, then
Automatic.
then I say, okay, I want you to go back and check it manually, which
Why
is
don't you take your name off one time and just call it the pop-up 1 week and just see what happens?
no. What I'll
You get
But the
Kevin
Bennett
might have a
podcast.
point.
That may work. You know, it actually might work if you just left your name off and let it run as the pop-up.
oh, okay.
But it might
That's
be.
what I'm saying.
The Bennett podcast.
I think
There you go.
Kevin's got a point. The Alex Bennett algorithm. You know, so
I
take
don't
Alex.
understand. It makes no sense to me. It makes no sense. And then the other time they demonetized me last week was one of the things Marjorie and I did in the park.
Oh no. Really?
Yeah. There's nothing we
No,
do in the
that's-
park except kiss each other. Although I think
Tongue kissing.
two people.
That's-
It was the
tongue
tongue.
kissing.
Is it the
That's
tongue?
pornography.
Is it the tongue that's causing the problem?
Yes.
Well,
it's senior pornography.
No, I.
What is that?
oh, that's good.
Senior spit swapping.
Who's the one in Atlanta? The woman there
Oh,
that
Mandy.
yes.
Yeah,
I have a feeling that's why. See, something must have been said, and it to
no,
her as a joke, or I don't know.
no.
No.
All she
Huh.
wants to do is punch Phil out. What's wrong
Yeah.
with that?
What?
She didn't even say that last Monday.
I don't know. One Monday she said that I was watching. She said she wanted to punch Phil.
Yeah, that was a couple.
Well, we all say that. So what's
I don't
Yeah.
know that I don't know that she's that aware of who Phil is because she doesn't really listen to this show.
She mentioned that one or two times. Yeah, she
Oh,
did.
did
He
she?
knows.
Knows he's a whack job.
Oh, okay.
It's a whack job.
Well, who doesn't want to punch Phil? That shouldn't get you demonetized,
Exactly.
you know. But
Did you watch 60 Minutes this last
I-
week?
I gotta watch it.
remind me what was
sorry.
on it.
They went into the full AI thing and how that whole AI thing
Oh,
is
yeah.
going crazy and deep into Bard, BARD,
Oh yeah, yeah.
new Bard system that Google is pushing out slowly,
Mm.
and how it actually how the computers can actually have feeling.
Feeling.
Yeah,
They act like they have feeling.
yeah they're starting to put out. I didn't catch the whole thing, but I caught maybe 5 or 10 minutes into it, and then it has a lot to do with the thing that you were doing, where you tell it to do something and it does it, and it does it better, like telling it to do a commercial for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it was saying you give it keywords and it would come back with a poem or something, or some kind of a what was it, Charlie? A paragraph with feeling, a poem with feeling, actual feeling to it.
But did you see South Park? South Park nailed it too.
No, I didn't.
South Park, yeah, South Park was really good. They did a chat thing on there.
But it was basically, you know, how crazy the algorithms have gotten and where they're going. And, you know, it just goes to show that they have to be real careful about what they're doing, because it's getting really, really, really good. And they're saying that it's going to take jobs and it's going to change jobs.
It already has.
It'll take jobs, but it'll also take jobs and change their people's jobs into a different job.
It's already happening with radio.
Well,
yeah, exactly. They're already doing it with radio.
Is there anything of that sort happening where you are? I mean, KQED is probably a little more, shall we say?
It won't happen at KQED. But it is happening with one company that I used to work for, and they're voice tracking all the stations.
Well, but that's been going on for years.
But they're actually taking the voice of somebody, like let's say it's you.
Okay.
And AI is mimicking you doing breaks.
And they were talking about that. They were talking about putting the voices and the faces and voices to the faces.
Well,
Can you say something that you never said?
Yeah.
Considering radio
they
is
said
on
the election is going to be brutal with stuff like that, this coming election.
Yeah. Well, considering that you know, that now I forgot what I was going to say. Yeah.
You'll remember.
Talking about AI.
We're talking about AI. But I mean, I was talking about the fact that AI. Oh yeah, what I was going to say is that they. I think yes, it can replace a lot of people in broadcasting. It probably could. You could probably do away with the disc jockey and just have somebody, some voice, come on AI, you know, reading a script or whatever, or even making up its own thing. I mean, I see that as entirely possible. But radio's on its last leg. And that's another part of this, okay? So that being the case, maybe AI isn't what killed radio. It's probably radio that killed radio. There's this guy here in New York who owns a radio station. His name is Casamudis or Casamadis. He owns supermarkets and decided to buy the KABC here in New York. And it turns out now that there's a new thing that they're they're talking about, and that is the car dealers, the car manufacturers, are saying they're no longer going to be putting AM radios in cars. They're only going to put FM in cars, which is still radio, but it's only going to be FM, and he's only an AM station. He doesn't have an FM signal. And so he's turned out a commercial with a celebrity to do a commercial about, hey, let's keep radio going. Let's keep AM radio going. Don't let the car companies blah blah blah. And guess who he got to do it? Mike Pence.
God.
And I'm thinking to myself, good going. That's going to sell everybody.
Yeah.
Right?
You know, and you just gave me a good reason not to want to listen to AM radio. Okay.
Now, didn't he buy that station for $150,000?
I don't know if he bought it for $150,000, but it was going pretty cheap because Cumulus wanted to get rid of it.
Wow.
You know, so he bought it, and you know, I mean, I guess he's doing okay with it.
God, if it was that cheap, I would have bought it and let Alex Bennett run 24 hours a day.
Well, the last thing I would buy if I was going to buy a radio station is an AM radio station.
Oh, right.
But the last thing I do is buy a radio station.
Yeah.
You know, now what has radio been replaced by? Hey, the podcast.
Yeah.
Boy, isn't it amazing how things get worse and worse and worse and worse? I mean, now any amateur can do radio. Now, I don't mind the democracy of that. That any of you guys, if you wanted to, could start a podcast. And maybe if you're really good at it, a lot of people would listen to it. I like that democracy. But the thing is that there's too much of it. You know, how many podcasts are there out there? 300,000? Some amazing amount. And you go,
Oh, it's crazy.
and I'm fighting for, you know, a handful of listeners here. And you know, I could up the ratings on Gabnet if I just do a murder mystery story.
Ooh, those are
You
good.
know, which I refuse to do, of course. And then again, I don't know of any murder mysteries that I want to.
I mean, I see it happening in TV too. I mean, if you ever see some of these shots, like I've seen it on CNN or even the Today Show or whatever, when they pan back, and you used to see 5, 6 cameramen, now you see maybe 2, and the other shots are probably, you know, remote cameras setting up on the rafters that they just take a shot
You're
of.
lucky that you see anybody behind the cameras.
Not only that you see anybody behind the cameras, because they're probably robots now.
Well, most TV stations, local TV stations, employ robot cameras. Okay.
Right.
However, I was talking to somebody. Who was I talking to? It was an interview I was doing today with Steve Kravitz about the fact that when I here in New York, one of the only outfits that ever had me on any kind of a regular basis, were 2 people. One was MSNBC in the early days, and I was on every week with Tucker Carlson. Okay.
I'm sorry.
I know, but it was Tucker Carlson. He was very nice to me. I can't complain. Okay. And the other was, because they were right across the street, Fox. And every time I did Fox, treated great, you know, respected, not. And when I went there and did them, I went, this is amazing, because over at MSNBC, I was just sitting in a room with a robot camera in front of me, talking to the robot camera. Over at Fox, 3 cameras, and there's a human being behind every camera. And I mentioned it to to Kravitz, and I said, come to think of it, the other day I was watching that show, Outnumbered, you know,
Yeah.
and they sometimes take a shot of the whole room with the cameras, and there is a camera person behind every camera.
Yeah.
So of all the people in the business, to try not get cheap with that, I think if you go over to MSNBC, those are all robot cameras, I'm sure.
Yep.
You know.
That's what I was trying to compare, because I've seen that.
Yeah. So I mean, I gotta hand it to Fox. At least they, you know, I mean, even if it's a union thing, all the other places have been able to force the unions out, or you know, or in negotiations say, well, we want to have robot cameras now, you know. But anyway, I'm saying something nice about Fox. They just treated me fine. You know, I can't complain about the way they treated me.
It's how they treat the rest of the country.
Well, no, it's their ethics. You know, they have no ethics.
Lights, camera, bullshit.
Well, I explained, you know, why do we have ratings? Do you know why we have ratings? I know, probably Mr. Fox knows it.
Right.
But then again, he's a
Money.
KQED. They don't give a damn about ratings, or do they?
Money, because
Money, yeah.
money to bring in new sponsors.
But
Yeah,
and
no,
Fox
you know,
wasn't always-
here's the bottom line. You want to know how many people are watching you, because that's what you base your advertising rates on. It's called
Right.
cost per thousand. So you can have only 5 people listening to you, but if your rates are cheap enough for 5 people on a cost per thousand basis, you can sell advertising. But it's that if you're going to sell advertising and you're not getting good ratings, you're going to have to sell it for less. So this is why they were so panicked over at Fox, because they saw a diminishing of their audience when they made the call on Arizona for Biden. They lost a lot of people. And what does that mean? That means less of this coming in. So how are we going to make more of that start coming in? Hey, why don't we go after Dominion? You know? And that's what Dominion was counting on in their argument, is that they did it because it made them money. Not because they believed it to be true. They knew it not to be true. And yet they,
That's interesting.
you know, persisted. So that's what goes with that.
Historically, though, has Fox been this bad? I don't think so. I mean, back in the day when you were on it, was it that bad?
They were known as pretty right wing. I mean, I remember once
Yeah, but
I told
were they that-
you'll hear this on the interview with Kravitz, I think tomorrow night. I said, Kravitz, I distinctly remember being in the makeup room and they had the most modern makeup room you ever saw. They spray paint the makeup on you.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And good makeup woman, like I said, made me look terrific. She said, "Yeah." She says, "So what do you do?" I said, "Well, I have a radio show over at Sirius across the street, Sirius XM." So what kind? I said, "Oh, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of politics." Said, "Oh, where are you politically?" I said, "Oh, I'm way to the left." She looked at me and she said, "You're in a lot of trouble here." I remember that.
Got him out of the picture.
But I went in and did this show, and they were very nice to me. And by the way, it was a panel, and we did have like a libertarian, and we had me, and then we had, I think there was another liberal on there, and then there were a couple of right wingers. It was a very balanced group. Now I don't know if that's true today. You know, the only time I ever watch them is to go over and look at Outnumbered so I can see if I can look up their dresses while I'm watching them, you know. But it was something. But anyway, so, you know, I mean, it was all for money. And when your politics are all for money, then who needs it, you know? You got to, at some point at which you say, okay, if we're going to do news, then we have to be, we can't take sides. We have to just do the best job we can at supplying people with every bit of information they need to know in order to make an intelligent decision on their own. And they didn't do that. And they, on top of that, they even made it worse by saying we're fair and balanced. Okay, that was the first big lie. But you go over to MSNBC and it's no different. I mean, those people over there are all thinking about how are we going to play to our audience?
Oh, sure.
And how are we going to maximize our audience? And why are we doing that? For advertising.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You know? Now Steve works in you work in a non-commercial environment over there at KQED.
But we do have, if you want to say, sponsors. So
well, you have
donors.
Yeah, it's but it's just a quick little mention. This hour is brought to you by, or is
it actually goes for about I think it's 15 seconds each.
Yeah,
that they get. Yeah,
yeah, but I mean,
they go into detail.
Do you take commercial breaks that way?
Yeah, we just start off by saying, you know, support comes from, you know, whoever it may be, you know, Comcast Business, Comcast advertises, blah, 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 you know, and
yeah,
it's basically a commercial. But I know a long time ago, it wasn't even that way. It was just a mention of who it is, and then they move on.
This program is being brought to you by and viewers like you.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
That's it.
And now it is, you know what they've done, PBS has done. They still don't run commercials much on their TV stations, on the TV stations that are running stuff. Mm-hmm. But if you go over to their PBS website, their app, okay, you better bet your life there are commercials there.
Oh man,
you know, they're a whole
They're
minute
on the air. Yeah,
you know, they'll run a minute commercial before the show. You know. But they didn't say they were non-commercial, you know. So
no, they're on an app, so they're not broadcasting. I guess they get away with that.
They can get away with it, exactly. People would get very mad if they ran real heavy, long commercials on, you know, on say KQED.
Well, you have a listen one morning or afternoon, like through All Things Considered or one of the other shows that are on there. Mm-hmm. You'll find me talking for about a minute and a half, you know, going on with all these sponsors and all these things that the station's doing and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah.
It's huge. So, and they're getting the advertisers, and then the advertisers, well, I shouldn't say advertisers, donors, and then the donors are actually getting results. So it's working out really well.
Oh, yeah, well, of course. But, I mean, do they care at KQED Radio, which you were with, do they care that, you know, that they what the ratings are? I mean, do they say,
yeah, they do.
They do. And do they tell you, hey, let's do more to get the ratings up there and so on? Or
Well, they have, they talk about KCBS, because it's going head and head with them, and we're always beating them. But every once in a while, they will come in and beat us, and it's due to a ball game or something. I don't know what.
See,
what
most
else.
people don't know what we're talking about in the rest of the country, but I got to tell you, folks, this is the most unusual story ever. For years, KGO was the #1 station in San Francisco, 35 years running. And then all of a sudden, one day, they went from what was called the diary method to the it's like a
PPM or whatever it is.
Well, what you do is you carry around a little a beeper-like object, and the TV stations, radio stations, so on, put out with a signal to say what the station is. So it does the monitoring, and you don't put it down in a diary, and that changed everything. Okay.
I thought the FCC required them to send out that signal.
No. If they don't send it out, they don't get rated.
Oh wow.
Okay. So what happened is that it became the order of the day, and all of a sudden KGO, the station which for 35 years was #1 in the Bay Area, was suddenly number 30 or something like that. And guess what became #1? The non-commercial station KQED radio.
Oh.
Who would have thought? Because, they didn't even rate KQED in the past because they would only rate commercial stations.
Right.
But then they were somehow, I don't know, forced or told that they had to include non-commercial stations in what they were rating, and you guys became #1. The only problem there is you really couldn't sell a whole bunch of commercials. You could only sell like one an hour or something like that. But that must have driven the rest of the industry in San Francisco crazy.
Oh, it did. And someone's coming through my gate.
Really?
Yeah.
Be sure to get your gun, go shoot him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bill? No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, do we need to bring this up?
What? Oh, those
The last 3 days.
3 shootings of people being shot going up to somebody's door, or not?
Wrong door.
Wrong door.
Or a car door.
Car door.
Or driveway. Or
this kid, and it's miraculous because this one kid went to this guy's door and it was the wrong place, looking for his sister sibling,
Yeah.
and it was the wrong door. And the guy said, "Go away." And as the kid was getting ready to leave, he gets shot through the head, shot in the head.
Shot twice.
And then where else? I think in his leg was the other place. A shoulder, whatever. And miraculously, that kid was out of the hospital in 2 days, I think.
Yeah, the bullet didn't penetrate the brain.
Yeah. So, I mean, very lucky, very lucky. But they arrested this guy. He's 84 years old.
These 80-year-olds. What are we gonna do with them?
Yeah, what are you gonna do with them?
They give him life.
Give them a gun.
Give him a life, and that means a year.
Gun and
And
saw.
yeah.
I'll come back and
And then the next thing was this woman who was going to see some friends or whatever, and then she realized she was going up the wrong driveway, and she starts turning around to leave. I think this was this here in New York? I think.
I think it was up in the Buffalo area. Wasn't
Yeah,
it?
turns around to leave, and a guy from a house way up on the hill
Opens fire.
opens fire and kills her.
She had friends in the car with her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other one was this cheerleader
2 cheerleaders going to the wrong car.
Austin.
going
That
to
was
the
in
wrong
Austin.
car. They thought it was their car, and then it wasn't. And then a gun shoots out the window or whatever, and the girl didn't get killed, but she's in the hospital. So
That happens all the time. So many stupid white Teslas here.
Yeah.
Go down coming from Costco, and I went down the wrong aisle, went to the wrong car one time. I was like,
yeah.
well, I didn't get shot.
I was gonna say, yeah, but
Another reason everybody should have a gun.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect.
So to shoot back.
But my question is this: when in the world are we going to wake up and say enough is enough with guns in this country? When are we going to say? Do you know that we have 25? What did they say? 25 times the amount of homicides with guns over the next
Yep.
country of our kind. I don't know what you would call us.
Not
25
homicides,
25
murders.
times the homicides.
Not
Don't you
just
think
homicide, murders.
Yeah, more deaths with from guns than countries that are in active warfare have.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about that, but
I think it's
That's
probably
true.
true.
Look, Google it.
You know, I mean, the amount of, I think it's time that we started saying enough is enough with the guns. Okay? You know, obviously, it's like, as I said before, it's like if you have a kid and he doesn't play with his toys right, you take his toys away. You don't let him play with them for a while. You know, the fact is, Americans do not use their guns properly, and it needs to be done away with. You know, the NRA just held their convention this last
some
weekend.
states have red flag laws, like California, New York, and stuff like that. Not
doesn't-
southern states.
They,
And what they do is, if somebody's stupid or crazy with a gun, you turn them in, and they take their guns
But
from
what
them.
if
at
what if
least
the first
temporarily.
time they get stupid or crazy with a gun, it's like this 84-year-old guy who then shoots a kid in the head?
I don't disagree.
guy
Okay,
at the
so
church.
I mean, red flag laws are really weak. It's only meant to kind of make the populace feel better that we're doing
That's
something.
my point. They
But
need
we're
to
not.
be. They need to be stronger laws.
No, they don't. No laws at all. I say, hey, if you don't have a reason to have a gun, and if you're a policeman, you have a reason to have a gun. Okay? If you're a hunter, you go hunting, you should be forced to leave your rifles at the hunting lodge or at the hunting club. That's
way
what
they
they
do it in Australia.
It's what they do in England too. You are not allowed to have a rifle unless you keep it at a club. Okay? These things, you know, it's just, let's get the guns out of the hands of people. Let's just not make them available to people. And yeah, we'll still have problems with guns, but it won't be like it is now. I mean, it's dangerous out there, guys. You know?
well, they said people in the house, they're having lapel pins that are like AKs or something. Did you hear that?
No,
Yeah.
no. But, you know, they just had the, oh, here, we have somebody behind you, but she's
There you are.
blurry. Oh, there.
She's coming in.
Yeah, but she's
It's
blurry.
like Brian, you know, when Brian brings his daughter in and, you know.
Unblur her.
Well, unblur her.
There you go.
Unblur
I'm
her.
blurred.
How do I?
I'm blurred.
You're blurred. There you are.
Hi.
Blurred
This is-
background.
Let me unblur.
And who is this lovely person?
This is Amy,
Yeah.
and she came over for.
Wait, I'm
Oh,
trying
hang
to get out of the blurred spot. Wait,
Video-
hold on.
Wait, I'm trying to get out though.
Wait.
No,
Oh,
all you do is you
It's
go
your background.
you go
almost got
just
it.
where it says your background.
No,
There you
No,
go.
I almost
No.
got it.
You
Oh,
blurred
choose
me.
background.
Oh, there you
Yeah, just go to
Blur your
none.
black-
Go to none.
Wow.
There you are.
There.
There.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, Steve, you can leave.
go. Oh, he has permission now?
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
All right. Sorry.
So that's Amy.
Hi, Alex.
Okay, we don't want you to confuse that Amy with the other Amy on the next show.
Oh, could be her.
No.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Oh, you're going?
I have to leave. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
I don't
right.
blame you.
Yeah, really.
Anyway, you and I will talk soon because I swear I got to get you the stuff to record.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Okay.
That sounds good.
And let's all
I'll
give him a
talk to you
big
soon,
round
guys.
of applause, folks, for being the new voice of GabNet. Huh?
Oh.
Don't forget to wear protection.
Yeah.
Oh gee.
Oh, that's nice. That's really nice. That's
Real
tasteful.
classy.
That's tasteful,
Alan.
Alan. We can when we feel we're losing the tastefulness of our show, we can always rely on Alan to bring it back to reality.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, part of our conversation earlier today. So.
But anyway, so I mean, this thing with guns, it's just, I'll be watching MSNBC or something and say, oh, there's just been a shooting and blah blah blah. It's for Sweet 16 party, 4 people killed.
It's becoming so
Well,
complacent.
I say to Marjorie, is this the murder of the day? Is this the mass shooting of the day? Because literally over the last 4 or 5 days, we've had a mass shooting every day, or some kind of bizarre shooting, like people finding the wrong address or whatever. None of those people should be allowed to have guns.
Right.
You know, they did. The one who shot the girl and killed her from his house, they just put him in jail without bail.
And then he bailed. Oh, the one from the house. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They bailed the guy out who was 84.
Mm-hmm.
And he's only being charged with, I think, second-degree assault because the kid's on the mend now. You know, he's up and about and he's doing okay.
Why not charge him with attempted murder, shooting through a door?
Well, there is a case here to be made for a racial event. You know,
Absolutely.
So, whatever. Hi, Jeff. You haven't said anything tonight.
Well, that's true. But I did learn some new things today.
No?
My youngest high school student
Yeah.
today is graduating.
Yeah.
But, so she sends a picture of herself. Now remember, she's 19 years old. 18
Yeah.
years old.
Right.
She has a way easily to make her face look 40 years older.
Oh, really?
Has anybody heard of this?
Yeah.
Better living through Photoshop.
Yeah.
I think you can do that. I think you can do that. I think
Yeah.
with AI you're
There's
going to
an
be able to
app
do
on the
it.
phone that does it automatically.
Really?
Yeah.
What's it called?
Ray's really 17. He just looks 60 on this thing.
What's it
there's a
called?
few of them. All you do
I
is
see. Yeah, I see the app. It's called the Look Like Marjorie app.
Turn it on
this
now.
is-
Let's see what you look like. Oh.
No,
So what my son did, he called up his sister and says, "She looks just like you." Oh God!
Why?
The world is so silly.
Yeah. So anyway, so I just the world is not pleasant these days at all. And now, what is it that I heard? Isn't Trump supposed to go somewhere to back to court or something again to testify? He's like he's going to be spending a lot of his life in court. And by the way, I mean it's not over for him. But I hope somebody nails him before he runs for president. You know.
Thought he was.
I
thought he was running already.
Yes, he's running, but do we have to seriously consider him yet?
Well, DeSantis is getting in there with some jabs and stuff.
Yeah, but DeSantis also is losing money. He's not getting money from the Republican Party.
He's another idiot.
The Republicans are not backing him. Well, he's a complete moron too.
Oh,
Again,
absolutely.
what I don't look. I wouldn't mind any of these people if I had the feeling they were sincere in their beliefs. DeSantis isn't sincere in his beliefs. He's trying to say whatever he thinks will get him the vote of his constituency. And right now that constituency is Republicans because the Democrats don't matter. He's got to get nominated first. Because if you ever notice, when these guys play to their base, and then
Hello, everybody. You have reached Green Room on Air, and this is your host, Ray Renate, formerly called Ray Renati, and this is my little...
Is there a reason why we should be hearing your show?
Can I have your autograph?
Ray?
I was editing it and I forgot to turn off
You're
the...
editing a show while you're on this one.
That's quite rude, Ray.
And now we can't even hear you,
Now
Ray.
we can't hear him apologize.
I'm done.
Jeez
Shit.
almighty.
Well, I couldn't
Wait,
stay
well,
away.
Hold on a second. I didn't hear what you said. I'm editing tomorrow night's show. Let me... Boy.
Multitask.
Anyway.
Well, that's why I get paid the big bucks.
Ray, huh?
Anyway, where were we?
Oh, you're listening?
What were we talking about? I'm having a hard time.
I'm so sorry.
You stopped me from concentrating. I can't remember what I was talking about.
We were talking about Trump maybe having more trouble.
Oh yeah, no. What I was saying is that when Trump was running for the Republican nomination, he was playing to that base. When he suddenly was running for president and he had to play to everybody, his whole tune changed. Yep. And then when he became president, forget that. I don't even want to remember that. It's a horror story. What?
You know what? I was going to ask the group this, if I could, since we're talking about Trump. Do you guys think, well, this has nothing to do with Trump. Do you think Biden should step away for the next election and maybe have him go back to a primary for a new person?
I do.
I do.
You know, I mean, I'm speaking as a guy who's getting older. I mean, you hear me tonight. I can't remember what I was talking about certain times, you know.
But I'm thinking, like, even like you were saying, Alex, they should have I'm not trying to sound like an ageist, but I'm just saying indirectly, do we really need a guy in there at like 82 running the country?
Well, at your age, you're an ageist for saying it. At my age, I agree with you, and I'm not an ageist for saying it. You know?
Okay, yeah.
But Tony, people voted for Biden because he could beat.
No, but I'm talking about the next election.
So that's the thing. If you're going to have somebody run that people don't think that can beat Trump, they're not going to vote for him.
See, if you could get somebody really fresh to run, who just is up there, doesn't have much of a track record, but just has a lot of ideas, I think he could beat any Republican. Because the Republicans have a big problem on their back, and that's the whole abortion issue. They're not very popular because of the abortion issue.
I think that cost them in 2022.
Yeah, but it won't cost them if we've got a candidate that has just as many problems. Because what they're going to throw at Biden is all the border stuff, you know, and the age, of course, is going to be brought up. You know,
gas prices are going up, and they're almost $5 a gallon.
I mean, I think the optimum president for me was Obama, because he was just the right age, you know, old enough to have common sense and experience, and young enough to still seem alert and around and, you know, with it, and that he could come up with. What are you saying, Jeff? You're giving me a.
I think his experience was not as much as we would like.
Well, first term, second term, he had learned the job.
Obviously.
Yeah.
And he did a great job of that.
Well, my big.
But he was a very intelligent, articulate guy right from the beginning.
Oh yeah. Well, that's what I like most about him was his intelligence, his sense of humor, a lot of things like that. He's probably the funniest president we've had in years. But it was quite a thing when he ran, because I remember most of all a picture in Newsweek magazine of him walking up the steps of the Senate, because he'd just been a senator for about a year, maybe tops two, when he started running for president. And the caption below the picture said, "How can he expect to be president and solve problems when he hasn't even been in the Senate much yet?" You know, that he really went into the presidency with little or no experience for the job.
Clinton did the same thing.
No,
absolutely
not.
Was governor.
He was governor of Arkansas. No. Hold on a second. He was governor of Arkansas not once, but then defeated and ran again and became governor again. Yeah. And if anybody is ready-made to be president of the United States, it's a governor. All he's doing is the president's job in microcosm.
Yeah.
So he was very prepared to be president.
He's also very smart.
Yeah, but he also was ready to be president.
Okay.
And my big thing about Obama, I mean, I voted for him, but my feeling was, you know, he really doesn't have the experience, and he didn't. So he got Biden to go be there with him, because Biden did have the experience, and that was a good decision. It was the best decision he made, you know. Oh, hey, I just looked at the clock.
Whoa,
we're running out of time, folks. Oh, boy. I start batting my chops, and guess what happens?
I thought maybe your refrigerator told you it was time.
Listen, no, it's my pacemaker. Sorry, Jeff. Jeff, thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate it. Same thing with you, Brian, as always. And a big thank you to Mike Wallace. No, Charlie Wallace.
Uncle Mike.
Yeah. Thank you to Kevin. Thank you to Alan. Thank you, Tony. And thank you, Ray. Are you finished editing yet?
I am.
Okay, good. And thanks also to Steve Fox for being here earlier. We'll see you all again, hopefully next time, tomorrow night, same time, same station. In life, give yourself a big wave goodbye, and I'll wave goodbye at you. Okay, there they go, folks. There's our people. Let me just hang up on them here. Anyway, that's it. We'll be back again tomorrow night. Same time, same station in life. In the meantime, as always, stay tuned for The Intersection next. Gabnet Live is the place to call on Skype. I'll see you tomorrow night. Same time, same station in life. And in the meantime, if you see her, tell her I love her. Good night. I'm running out of time here. I got to speed up. Hang on.